Okay, so let's take a look at these pizzas here. On this top one, we've got 1, 2, 3, and the shaded part is, let's say, the piece I ate. And so there's 4 pieces total, and I ate 1/4. So 3/4 is left over. Okay, let's look at the second one. Same amount left, except this time the pieces are cut smaller. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces total, and 6 of those 8 are still left. And then on this last pizza, looks like the same amount as well. Again, the pieces are cut smaller. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12 would be here. So we have 9/12 of the pizza left. All 3 of these pizzas are still equivalent to 3/4, just different pieces, or just different slices. Okay, so one way to determine equivalent fractions is to use the property of 1. To find an equivalent fraction, we multiply or divide the numerator and the denominator of a fraction by the same number. Now, don't make fun of my property of 1s right here, but if you take 3/4 and you multiply by 2 in the numerator and 2 in the denominator, you're going to get 6/8. And if you take 3/4 and you multiply by 3 in the numerator and the denominator, property of 1, you'll get 9/12. So if we've got the fraction 2/5 equals something over 15, think about how are you going to change this 5 into a 15? Well, you know your 5s, hopefully, and you're going to multiply 5 by 3. 5 by 3 is 15. Well, if you multiply the bottom by 3, you're going to multiply the top by 3 using your property of 1, and you're going to get 2 times 3 is 6, and 5 times 3 is 15. So your equivalent fraction of 2/5 is going to be 6/15. You can also use the property of 1 with division to find equivalent fractions as well. So we've got 6/36 here, and we're going to divide by 3 in the numerator and the denominator. Now, why did I pick 3? Because 3 is a factor that will divide evenly into both 6 and 36 evenly without a remainder. Now, there are other factors that 6 and 36 share, but I went ahead and picked 3 just for this example. So 6 divided by 3 equals 2, and 36 divided by 3 equals 12. So an equivalent fraction of 6/36 is 2/12. In our next example, we have 8/16, and we're going to divide by 2 in the numerator and the denominator using our property of 1, because 2, I know, is a factor that will divide evenly into 8 and 16, because they're both even numbers. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8/16 is equivalent to 4/8. Now, when we are finding equivalent fractions through division, and we're asked to find the simplest form of a fraction, that means we've got a fraction in simplest form when the only factor that the numerator and the denominator have in common is 1. So let's look at 5/12. 5/12 is in simplest form because 1 is the only common factor of 5 and 12. Now, what that means is there is no other number besides 1 that will divide evenly into 5 and 12. So 5/12 is in simplest form. Now, 14/28 is not in simplest form. So we're going to have to divide to find an equivalent fraction of 14/28 until there's a number or a factor that we cannot divide into both of them besides 1. So in my first example, I've got 14/28 divided by 2 in the numerator and the denominator using our property of 1, and we get 7/14. But I know that it's not in simplest form because 7 is a factor of both 7 and 14. So I'm going to take 7 divided by 7 in the numerator and 14 divided by 7 in the denominator, and I'm going to get 1/2. Now, another way to find the simplest form of 14/28 is to try and find the biggest factor that will divide evenly into both of them. And so if you use the biggest factor of 14, you can divide 14 by 14 in the numerator and 28 by 14 in the denominator, and you'll get to 1/2 quicker. Now, it doesn't really matter if you divide by 2 and then divide by 7 to get 1/2, or if you just divide by your greatest common factor 14 first to get your half. Either way, you're going to get the simplest form of 1/2 for 14/28. Okay, so let's look at this last example. Physical education class lasts 24/30 of an hour. Write 24/30 in simplest form. So I've got 24/30, and I know that 2 is a factor of 24 and 30 because they're both even numbers. So I'm just going to start there. 24 divided by 2 equals 12, and 30 divided by 2 equals 15. But I also know that this fraction here isn't in simplest form, and so I know that the factor of 3 will divide evenly into both 12 and 15. So I'm going to divide by 3 in both the numerator and the denominator. 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. 4/5 is 24/30 in simplest form. Now, if you can look at 24 and 30 and know that the largest factor that will divide evenly into both 24 and 30 without a remainder, you'll get 6, because you know that 6 will go into 24 4 times, and 6 will go into 30 5 times. So that will give you to the simplest form faster, but either way, you're going to get there, you're going to get the same answer.